This is CPRmetro.org, community progressive radio for the metropolitan New York area and the world, and this is the CPR Morning Show.
Arise, ye workers, from your slumber. Arise, ye prisoners of want. That's right. For reason in revolt now thunder. Chains of hatred, greed, and fear. Ha ha! Away with all your superstitions. Serve our masses. Arise, arise. We'll change henceforth the old tradition and spurn the dust to win the prize. So comrades, come on and rally. Then the last fight let us face. The International unites the whole darn human race. So comrades, come on, let's go rally. And the last fight let us face. The International unites the whole darn human race. No more deluded by reaction. On tyrants only will make war. The soldiers too will take strike action. They'll break ranks and fight no more. And if those cannibals keep trying to sacrifice us to their pride, each at the forge must do their duty, and we'll strike while the iron is hot. So comrades, come on, let's go rally. And the last fight let us face. The International unites the whole beautiful human race. So comrades, come on, let's go rally. Ha! And the last fight let us face. The International unites the whole darn human race.
This is CPRmetro.org, community progressive radio for the metropolitan New York area and the world, from the metropolitan New York area to the world and beyond, wherever you may be. You're inside the CPR Morning Show with DeBar on this Thursday, the 7th day of March, 2013. And before we jump into our daily tour of the American cultural, political, and social anthropologique, just a heads up, I may be busting in with periodic reports today. Bernard, likewise, we have two people that are physically heading to Caracas today to cover the funeral and the goings-on in Venezuela in the aftermath of the death yesterday, or the day before yesterday, of President Hugo Chavez. So we'll be covering that in depth today and tomorrow and Saturday morning, and of course beyond, but we'll have two people on the ground beginning today and bringing that to you. In any event, as is our custom, we begin our program today with our daily tour of the American cultural, political, and social anthropologique. Today, we begin that tour with this.
A celebration. Tell me, you know what it means. Maybe it's angel voices giving the world inspiration through a dream. Tambourines and rainbows. Well, I let them all come in. And when I see my true love, I wanna go help us changing the sound of the world. Starlight from the candle, oh, held within your hands, and all the words you're speaking, only a poet would truly understand. A canvas full of colors, oh well, I think I hear it say, whatever the moves you carry, you're gonna go and fly away. Singing, yeah, a song for the muses that help us play. Every day's a new fantasy, yeah. Song for the muses, yeah, that help us play. Changing the sound of the world. That help us play. Every day's a new fantasy, yeah. Song for the muses, yeah, that help us play. Changing the sound of the world. Sound of Nobody's stopping you. Take a look at me. I'm on a high wire, high wire. Ain't no mystery, yeah. I'm on a high wire, high wire. I'm on a high wire, high wire. Take a look at me, yeah. what's inside my head, rather than making you guess instead. I wanna come out and tell you, you appeal to my love situation. That's what I feel. I wanna come out and tell you, you appeal to my love situation. That's what I feel. You wanna know what's inside my heart. Truly believe you're a work of art. Oh yeah, you appeal to my love situation. That's what I feel. You appeal to me. You appeal to my love situation. That's what I feel. Well, I try to play it nice and easy, but no way I'm gonna let you go. In my mind I wanna hold you closer, so you ought to be the first to know. You appeal to my love situation, that's what I feel. You appeal to my love situation, that's what I feel. You appeal to situation, that's what I feel. You appeal to me. You appeal to my love situation, that's what I feel. Well, I try to play it nice and easy, but no way I'm gonna let you go. In my mind I wanna hold you closer, closer. You ought to be the first to know. Oh yeah, you appeal to my love situation, that's what I feel. You appeal to me. You appeal to my love situation, that's what I feel. From your head to your toes, every way that heaven knows, heaven knows. Oh yeah, you appeal to my love situation, that's what I feel. You appeal to me. Precious stone. Be good to me. Diamond in the rough. Can you be good to me? Diamond in the rough. Whoa. that's alright. The fool's in a fever, human life. You gotta deal with it. Say you gotta deal with it. Oh yeah, deal with it. Say we're gonna deal with it. Welcome to the real world, so I'm told. Want me to shield you for the price of gold. She said love shining, hiding where you live. Sometimes there's a heartache, but it's all relative. Well, you gotta deal with it. So you gotta deal with it. Oh yeah, deal with it. So you're gonna deal with it. It would be so nice for my feet back on a solid ground. Yeah, I'm in deep water now.
Wow. That was Ernie Isley, the youngest of the Isley brothers, the young guitarist at the time who replaced Jimi Hendrix in that band, from his 1989 solo debut album, High Wire. Ernie was born on this date in 1952. He's 61 years old today. Happy birthday. When he was 11, Jimi Hendrix moved into the Isley household in Englewood, New Jersey for several years while he worked as a guitarist with the Isleys. Ernie was first influenced by Jose Feliciano's Light My Fire and by Hendrix across the board. Taught himself to be a guitarist at age 16, but he had already done live gigs since he was 14 as a drummer with the band in 1966. 2 years later, in 1968, he did his first professional recording. He played bass on the Isleys' It's Your Thing. That was released in 1969, recorded in 1968. He then played electric and acoustic guitars, and we just heard him, he's a band, and drums in the Isley Brothers' early 1970s albums, Get Into Something, Giving It Back, and Brother, Brother, Brother. He's just a bad cat, man. You hear the drums in the next to the last tune. We heard the it was the first half of the CD that we heard, and High Wire is the name of it. Time-wise, it was the first 6 tunes, so it's also the first half of 12. Song for the Muses, High Wire, the title track, Love Saturation, Diamond in the Rough, Deal With It, and In Deep. Ernie Isley, happy birthday. This is CPRmetro.org, Community Progressive Radio for the Metropolitan New York area and the world. And before I get into an interview that Cindy Sheehan did with Venezuelan President, the late Hugo Chavez, a couple of years back down in Caracas. And again, I told you earlier, if you're just tuning in, you don't know, but we have 2 people racing down to Caracas to cover the funeral tomorrow. One of them should be on the ground already, and another's arriving later today. And we'll be bringing you live feeds from Caracas of the scene there in the streets and from the funeral tomorrow, and some discussions with people on the ground there about what happens next. But before that, it is the 48th anniversary today of the so-called Bloody Sunday on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in the march from Selma to Birmingham, March 7th, 1965. When an estimated 500 or 600 at a minimum, that's the estimate here, civil rights marchers headed east out of Selma on Highway 80. John Lewis and from SNCC and now a member of Congress, and Reverend Jose Williams of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also Bob Manson, Albert Turner from SCLC. Protest went smoothly until they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge and found a wall of state troopers waiting for them on the other side. The local sheriff, Jim Clark, helpful as he was, issued an order for all white males in Dallas County over the age of 21 to report to the courthouse that morning to be deputized. Commanding Officer John Cloud told the demonstrators to disband at once and go home. Reverend Williams tried to speak with him, but Cloud curtly informed him there was nothing to discuss. Seconds later, the troopers began attacking demonstrators. Many were knocked to the ground and beaten with nightsticks. They fired tear gas and were charged. They charged the crowd on horseback as well. So we have. This is American history. It's nice, huh? Jesus. We have a couple of things we're going to play. First, this piece from 1965 about the march. And it's in 2 parts. And then we have, Yeah, all right, we'll do this first. So we're going to run this piece as soon as the mouse starts behaving here. Oh, man. How many of you get this frozen mouse syndrome where you have to go through all these changes to get the damn thing to work or unplug it or whatever? It's one of those things that goes with Windows. Okay, here we go. This is about the Selma March. And this is CPRmetro.org, Community Progressive Radio, from the Metropolitan New York area to the world and beyond, wherever you may be. This is actual footage from the march, shot by people marching. So it's worth watching.
One day she got old, she couldn't fight anymore. She said, I'll stand here and I'll fight anyhow. Oh, we are soldiers in the army. We've got to fight. Although we have to cry, we've got to hold on. Hold it up, the blood-stained banner. We've got to hold it up until we die. I'm so glad I'm a soldier. I've got my hands on the gospel plow. One day I'll get old and I can't fight anymore, but you know I'll stand here, child, and I'll fight anyhow. Oh, we are soldiers in the army. We have to fight, although we have to cry. We have to hold up the blood-stained banner. We've got to hold it up until we die. Oh, we are soldiers in the army. We've got to fight, although we have to cry. We've got to hold
hand in hand.
We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
We are not afraid.
We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall
Whites live side by side in decent, safe, and sanitary housing.
Yes, sir.
Let us march on segregated schools.
Let us march.
Until every vestige of segregated and inferior education becomes a thing of the past, and Negroes and whites study side by side in the socially healing context of the classroom. Let us march on poverty.
Let us march.
Until no American parent has to skip a meal so that their children may eat.
Yes, sir.
Let us march on ballot boxes.
Yes, march.
March on ballot boxes until race baiters disappear from the political arena. Let us march on ballot boxes until the Sadian misdeeds of bloodthirsty mob
Yes, sir.
will be transformed into the calculated good deeds of orderly citizens.
Speak, doctor.
Let us march on ballot
Let us
boxes
march.
until the Wallaces of our nation tremble away in silence. Let us march on ballot boxes
Let us march.
until we send to our city council,
Yes, sir.
state legislatures,
Yes,
and the
sir.
United States Congress,
Yes, sir.
men who will not fear to do justly,
Yes,
love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. Let us march on ballot boxes until brotherhood becomes more than a meaningless word in an opening prayer, but the order of the day on every legislative agenda. Let us march on ballot boxes until all over Alabama, God's children will be able to
God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, all in the church, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, all in the church, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, all in the church, we're gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And there's the credits who did the various filming and sound captures and such. And the songs were taken from the recordings of Folkways Records, used by permission of the SNCC. We Shall Overcome by permission of Ludlow Music, Inc. This is CPRmetro.org, Community Progressive Radio for the Metropolitan New York area and the world, from the Metropolitan New York area to the world and beyond, wherever you may be. You're inside the CPR Morning Show with Don DeBar, and I am Don DeBar. You know, I wanted to play two other pieces that are related to this, but I see that the clock is being a very difficult taskmaster this morning, and so I'm not going to be able to get to it. One of them is very interesting to me. I've really been enjoying poking through the archives of the CIA in various places that they've been posted, and there's one that's almost an hour long called from the CIA archives, Desegregation in the American Civil Rights Movement, a documentary that was made in 1957 that I'd like to play at some point, but not today. And then the other is this 1960 documentary about segregation and the impact that it had on people. But we'll get to that at another time. I guess next we're going to do this week's edition of Inside Out, which we blew off yesterday in favor of the Chavez coverage. Oh, no. Before we do that, I'm sorry. Before we do that, I'm going to jump to Cindy Sheehan's interview of the late president of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez. And this was aired for the second time last June here on CPRmetro.org. Cindy forwarded it. It was at a time that the U.S. media was saying 9 months ago that Chavez was on his deathbed and trying to dissuade, basically to derail his campaign for presidency, which he won overwhelmingly late last year. And so she re-aired it, but we're going to jump into that right now. This is Cindy Sheehan in Caracas about 2 years ago, she says when, interviewing the late president of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez.
So without further ado, this is the interview I did with President Chavez in March of 2010.
Pongo por delante de nosotros al comandante de todos los comandantes, al Cristo Redentor, crucificado y resucitado, al Cristo y su mensaje liberador, al Cristo y su mensaje de amor, de la justicia social. Y los llamo a todos. Los que quieran patria, vengan conmigo para que sigamos haciendo patria.
Chavez, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for this interview. And thank you for allowing me to bring the truth about Venezuela and about you and about your revolution to the people of the United States. And before the revolution, Venezuela was the nation that was ruled and used up by the oligarchy, the elite. How did your revolution begin? How did it manage to remain relatively peaceful?
Gracias a ti, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy,
por esta entrevista,
for this interview,
esfuerzos
for your efforts
que son notables,
that they're so
primero por
notable,
descubrir nuestra verdad
to try to find out our truth
y contribuir a difundirla.
and to contribute with its diffusion.
Te deseo siempre mucha suerte
And we wish you much luck
en tus luchas que son nuestras contra la guerra,
in your struggles, which are ours as well, against war,
por la paz,
for peace,
por la libertad, la
for
igualdad,
freedom and equality,
contra el imperialismo.
against imperialism.
Te acompañamos siempre en esas luchas.
We accompany you in those
A
struggles.
ti y al pueblo de los Estados
Of
Unidos.
you and the people of the United States.
Que nos
Thank you.
queremos igual.
We love them the same.
Fíjate, la burguesía
The
venezolana
bourgeois, Venezuelan bourgeois,
siempre dominó el país.
that has always dominated the country
100 años y más.
for more than 100 years.
Y lo dominó férreamente,
And they dominated it with force,
utilizando la violencia,
using violence,
la persecución,
persecution,
asesinato,
assassination,
desaparecido.
the disappeared.
Lamentablemente la historia venezolana
Unfortunately, the Venezuelan
es
history
una historia cargada de mucha violencia.
is a history full of a lot of violence.
Violencia de los fuertes contra los débiles.
Violence from the strong against the weak.
Ahora,
Now,
ese siglo XX venezolano,
in the 20th century in Venezuela,
dominado por la oligarquía,
which was dominated by the oligarchy
por el Estado burgués,
and the bourgeois state,
por los ricos
the
mandantes.
rich, the wealthy.
Resulta que produjo en Venezuela
It
un
produced in
milagro al revés,
a
podemos decir.
reverse type of miracle, we could say.
Venezuela fue el primer exportador mundial de
Venezuela
petróleo
was the first exporter of oil
desde los años 20
from the beginning of the 1920s
hasta los años 70.
until the 1970s.
Y bueno, y uno de los grandes productores mundiales de
And one of the
petróleo
largest producers of petroleum in the world
todo el siglo XX.
throughout all the 20th centuries.
Cuando terminaba el siglo XX,
And when the 20th century ended,
con el dominio de la burguesía,
with the domination of the
a
bourgeoisie,
pesar de tanta riqueza,
despite all the wealth,
Venezuela llegó a tener
Venezuela had
más del 70% de pobreza
more than 70% poverty
y 40% de miseria.
and 40% extreme poverty,
Miseria,
misery.
Bueno, eso generó una explosión
So that generated an explosion,
violenta.
a violent one.
Toda explosión es violenta.
All explosions are violent.
La explosión de los pobres
The explosion of the poor
por liberarse.
to liberate themselves.
Estábamos recordando hace apenas 2 días el Caracas.
We were remembering just 2 days ago the Caracas.
Tú estabas allí con nosotros,
You were
con
there
nuestro
with us,
pueblo.
with our people.
21 años atrás,
21 years,
el pueblo despertó.
21 years ago, the people
En una
awoke,
explosión.
arose in a big explosion.
Y nosotros, militares,
And us military,
fuimos utilizados por la burguesía
we were used by the
para
bourgeoisie
masacrar al pueblo.
to massacre the people,
Niños, mujeres,
Children, women.
ancianos.
older people.
Luego eso despertó en
And then
la
that
juventud militar
awoke something in the young military
una
person,
conciencia, un dolor.
a consciousness, a pain.
Y luego nos unimos al pueblo
And then we joined with the people.
e hicimos 2 rebeliones.
We had
Militares
2
populares.
rebellions, military rebellions, popular
Así que
insurrection.
nuestra revolución no es exactamente
Our
pacífica.
revolution isn't exactly peaceful.
Por eso tú hablabas correctamente de relativamente.
You said it was
CPR.org.
relatively
Como todas las revoluciones verdaderas.
just like all true revolutions.
Pardon, the violence of revolutions oftentimes come from the counter-revolution. And the Bolivarian revolution that has transferred power and wealth to the people is an inspiration, has been remained relatively peaceful.
Se ha mantenido esa revolución de manera pacífica.
Sí.
Yeah.
Luego, claro, llegamos al gobierno de
And
forma pacífica.
We got to power in a peaceful way.
Right.
Y nos hemos
Exactly.
logrado mantener
And
relativamente
we've been able to
pacífica.
maintain it relatively
Nosotros
peaceful.
no hemos usado la violencia.
We've never used violence.
Right.
La han usado contra nosotros.
They've used it against us,
La contrarrevolución.
the counter-revolution.
Ahora, la estrategia central de esa
So
revolución
the central strategy of our
Pacífica.
revolution, our peaceful revolution,
socialista
socialist,
es transferir al pueblo el poder.
is to transfer the power to the people.
Y seguramente tú has podido verlo con tus
I'm
propios
sure
ojos.
you've been able to see some of it with
En
your
los-
own
en los
eyes
barrios de Caracas.
in the neighborhoods of Caracas.
Estamos haciendo grandes esfuerzos para
We're
que el pueblo sea el
having immense
soberano.
efforts to help the people be sovereign.
Cuando hablamos del poder,
When
¿de
we
qué,
talk
de qué
about
estamos
power, what are
hablando?
we talking
Cindy?
about, Cindy?
El primer poder de todos es el conocimiento.
The first power that we all have is knowledge.
Entonces hemos hecho un esfuerzo educativo
So we've been efforts first in education,
contra la analfabetización,
against illiteracy,
por el desarrollo del
for the
pensamiento, el
development
estudio,
of thinking, of
el
study,
análisis.
analysis.
como nunca antes jamás.
That's in a way that's never happened before.
Hoy Venezuela es toda una gran escuela.
Today Venezuela is a giant school. It's all a school.
Ahí estudian desde los niños de 1 año
And children from 1 year old
hasta los ancianos.
until old age,
Estamos todos estudiando
all of us are studying
y aprendiendo.
and learning.
Luego el poder político,
And then political power,
es decir, la capacidad de tomar
the
decisiones,
capacity to make decisions.
los consejos comunales,
The community councils,
las comunas,
communes,
el poder popular,
people's power,
las asambleas populares.
the popular assemblies,
Luego el poder económico,
and then there's the economic power.
transferencia del poder económico al pueblo,
Transferring economic power to the people.
la riqueza del país
The
distribuida a la
wealth of the
población.
people distributed throughout the nation.
Yo creo que esa es la
I believe that
principal
that's the
fuerza
principal force
que garantiza precisamente
that precisely
que
guarantees
la revolución
that the
bolivariana
revolution, the
siga
Bolivarian
siendo
revolution,
pacífica.
continues to be peaceful.
Right. Wonderful.
Maravilloso.
In a speech the other day,
En un discurso
you
el otro
said
día,
that the United States demonizes
los
you,
Estados Unidos te satanizan.
demonizes Venezuela
Y
and the
Venezuela
revolution.
también, que lo sataniza y a la revolución.
I've of course seen it with my own eyes and been a defender of you in Venezuela and the revolution. Why do you think the empire has makes such a concerted effort to demonize you?
Yo creo que por distintas razones, ¿no?
I think for different reasons.
Pero he llegado a la conclusión, Cindy, de que hay una muy fuerte.
But I've gotten to the conclusion that there's one particular
Una
strong reason,
razón muy grande.
a big reason.
Tiene miedo el imperio.
They're afraid. The empire's afraid.
Tiene miedo de que el pueblo de los Estados Unidos
The empire's afraid that the people of the
se
United
entere
States
de la
will
verdad.
find out about the truth.
Tiene miedo a que brote en su propio
They're
territorio,
afraid that
Estados
something
Unidos,
like that could erupt in their own territory.
un movimiento bolivariano
A Bolivarian movement
o lincolniano,
or a Lincoln movement.
movimiento de ciudadanos y
A
ciudadanas
movement of citizens,
conscientes
conscious citizens
que bueno que vayan a transformar el sistema.
that go to transfer the system.
Y bueno, por
transform.
miedo imperial mataron a Martin Luther King.
Imperial fear killed Martin Luther King.
La única forma de pararlo fue matando
The only way to stop him was to kill him
y reprimiendo al pueblo de
and
los Estados Unidos.
repressing the people of the United States.
Entonces el tema tiene ¿por qué nos satanizan?
So why do they demonize us?
Ellos saben, es decir, quienes dirigen el
They
imperio saben la
know, those
verdad,
who direct the empire, they know the truth,
pero le temen a la verdad,
but they fear the truth.
le temen al efecto contagio,
They fear the contagious effect.
temen a una revolución en los Estados
They
Unidos,
fear a revolution in the United States.
temen al despertar del pueblo de
They
Estados
fear
Unidos.
an awakening of the
Y
people
por
of the
eso
United States.
hacen todo lo que pueden
And so that's why they do everything they can,
y lo logran relativamente.
and they achieve it relatively.
Que amplios sectores en los Estados Unidos
That a lot of sectors in the United States
nos vean como el diablo.
see us as devils.
Nadie quiere copiar al diablo,
No one wants to copy the devil,
a menos que sea el diablo también.
unless they're devils too.
Y el pueblo no es diablo,
And the people aren't
el
devils.
pueblo es la voz de Dios.
The people are the voice of God.
Well, one of the biggest names they call you in the United
El
States
nombre que más
is dictator. Can you explain to my listeners and the people for the benefit of this documentary why you are not a dictator?
Bueno, en primer lugar porque yo
in the
personalmente
first place, personally,
soy contrario a las dictaduras.
I'm against
Soy más bien
dictatorship.
un antidictador.
I'm an anti-dictator.
Estamos aquí en Uruguay,
We're here in Uruguay,
en Montevideo.
in Montevideo.
Tú sabes cuántas dictaduras hubo en estos países.
You know how many dictatorships were in this country.
El gorilismo, así
The
llamado.
guerrillism.
Yo soy un antigorila.
I'm an anti-guerrilla.
Sí. Ahora, además de eso,
In addition to
además de
that,
eso, desde el punto de vista ya político,
from a political point of view,
yo he sido electo 1, 2,
I've been
3 y
elected
4
1,
veces
2, 3, 4 times
por votación popular.
by popular vote.
En Venezuela se hacen elecciones a cada rato.
In Venezuela, we have elections all the time.
Ahora todos los años hay elecciones en Venezuela.
Every year we have elections in
Una vez
Venezuela.
dijo Lula,
One time Lula said,
el presidente de Brasil, le decía
President of Brazil,
en Europa, alguien le preguntó,
when he was in Europe, someone
¿por
asked,
qué usted es amigo de ese
why are
dictador
you friends
Chávez?
with that dictator Chavez?
Y Lula dijo una gran verdad.
And Lula said a big
Le
truth.
dijo, mira, en Venezuela más bien hay exceso de
In Venezuela, there's
democracia.
an excess of democracy.
Todos los años hay elecciones.
Every year there are elections.
Y cuando no hay, Chávez las inventa.
And when there aren't, Chavez invents them.
Referéndum,
Referendum,
consultas populares,
popular
elecciones
consultations,
para el gobernador.
elections for governors,
alcalde.
mayors.
Ahora mismo estamos comenzando
Right
la
now,
campaña para las
soon, we're
elecciones a
starting
la Asamblea Nacional.
elections for the National Assembly elections this year.
El 2012 habrá elecciones
In
presidenciales de nuevo.
2012, there's going to be a presidential election again.
¿Qué dictador es electo tantas veces?
What dictator is elected so many
¿Qué
times?
dictador convoca referéndum a cada
What
rato?
dictator convenes
Yo soy un
referendums?
antidictador.
I'm an anti.
Soy un revolucionario.
I'm a revolutionary.
Democrático.
A democratic revolutionary.
Well, I have witnessed this revolution. I've witnessed the empowerment of the people of Venezuela, which is very inspiring because the people in the United States don't feel this empowerment. I even rode the Metro Cable, and I'm afraid of heights. But I went up to the San Agustin and then walked down the steps and see how this the so-called dictatorship has made the life of the people much better here in Venezuela. But also in the commemoration of the Caracazo, you announced that you were again going to run for president in 2012. You've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. What do you still think needs to be accomplished as far as infrastructure and the needs of the people in Venezuela?
No, yo te diría que nosotros, para expresártelo matemáticamente,
to tell you in a mathematical way,
a pesar de todo lo que hemos hecho en educación,
everything we've done in education,
en salud,
healthcare,
en
infrastructure,
vivienda,
housing,
empleo,
employment,
seguridad social,
social security,
etcétera.
etc.
Sin embargo, matemáticamente te lo digo.
But mathematically,
yo creo que de todo lo que nosotros tenemos que lograr para el pueblo,
and we have to achieve for the people,
hemos llegado si acaso a un 10%.
We've achieved about 10%.
Porque son 200 años de abandono.
It's been 200 years of abandonment.
El pueblo estuvo abandonado.
The people have been abandoned.
Y todas las riquezas del país se las adueñaba la oligarquía.
All the wealth of the country was in the hands of the elite.
Por eso yo hablo del ciclo bicentenario en el que estamos entrando.
And for that I talk about the bicentennial cycle.
2010-2030.
2010 to 2030.
Habrá que trabajar muy duro.
Have to work really hard.
En todo.
In every aspect.
Por ejemplo, yo aspiro que tú algún día,
I hope that you,
dentro de pocos años,
in a few years,
ya no te puedas montar solo en el Metrocable San Agustín,
won't just go up in the Metrocable in San Agustín,
sino que casi toda Caracas va a estar rodeada de Metrocable.
All of Caracas is going to have.
Por todas partes habrá Metrocable.
And everywhere, in every place.
Vivienda.
Housing,
reconstrucción de barrios,
reconstruction in the
construcción de nuevas ciudades para el pueblo,
and the construction of new cities for the
viviendas
people,
dignas,
and dignified housing.
En fin, falta mucho todavía.
There's still a lot to do
para lograr lo que Bolívar
to
decía.
achieve what Simón Bolívar said.
Bolívar nos dijo, nos enseña.
Bolívar told us.
Llegó Evo, mira, llegó.
Oh, look,
Bolívar nos enseña. Evo, si quieres ven, siéntate aquí. Bolívar nos enseña que el mejor gobierno
that the best government
es aquel que le da al pueblo
that gives the people
la mayor suma de felicidad.
The best amount of happiness.
Esa es nuestra meta.
That's our goal.
La mayor suma de felicidad.
The best amount of happiness, the largest amount of happiness.
Mi querido Evo,
my
presidente de Bolivia,
the president of Bolivia,
que acaba de llegar,
who just got here,
y él, líder indígena,
he's an indigenous leader.
Él tiene una filosofía.
Brother, how are you?
Perdóname
President DeBar, mucho gusto. So nice to meet you.
Cindy Chihan.
Mucho gusto. Hola, ¿cómo están?
Eva Gollinger.
Sí, nos conocemos, claro.
Cindy Chihan.
Cindy Chihan.
Ella es luchadora por la paz,
She's a
antiguerra,
fighter for
estadounidense,
peace,
de
against the
California.
war. She's US.
Uno de sus hijos murió en Irak.
One of her sons died in Iraq.
Estados Unidos.
Sí, entonces nos están entrevistando.
So she's interviewing us.
Si tú quieres responder alguna pregunta.
And maybe you want to answer a question.
Entonces, Evo habla de vivir bien. Vivir bien.
To live well.
Es filosofía aymara.
It's an Aymara Indian philosophy.
Trata de que el pueblo viva bien.
To live well, live a good life.
Vivir bien espiritualmente.
Live well in spiritual sense, spiritually,
intelectualmente,
intellectually,
físicamente.
Physically.
De eso se trata.
That's what it's about.
Thank you. That's what it should be about.
De eso se trata.
I have one final question. Thank you for your generosity.
Muchas gracias.
This has been really wonderful. Maybe President Morales could have some input about this too. We see your rise to power in Venezuela as kind of a grassroots movement that has spread and been spreading, and it helped President Morales in Bolivia, and we see people all over South America taking back their power. Because the power belongs in the hands of the people. A couple of weeks ago in the United States, a man flew his airplane into the tax building in Austin, Texas. Did you hear about that? He had much frustration with the system. And there's a lot of that frustration in the United States. But instead of flying planes into buildings, we should find each other and organize. So, in the United States, of course, we are now a system that is also for the elite, ruled by the elite. It's a corporatocracy. Corporate, it's for the corporate elite. Yeah, and of course, in my opinion, I believe the United States needs this same grassroots revolution, power back to the people that you have all had here in South America. Can you leave us some words of inspiration to encourage us, to give us the courage and heart for true revolutionary change?
We were the same, dominated, persecuted.
Y también hubo gestos de desespero, como
there's a lot of desperation.
Señor que lanzó el avión contra una torre.
Just like that man who flew the plane into the building.
También hubo mucho.
There's a lot of that.
Impulso de ese tipo, ¿no?
A lot of the impulses, suicidal tendencies.
Ahora, claro, ese no es el camino.
Now that's not the path.
No es el camino. El camino es la conciencia.
The path is consciousness.
El despertar de la conciencia.
An awakening, a conscious awakening.
Evo fue perseguido.
Evo was persecuted.
Desde niño.
From very young.
Y yo lo conocí cuando era diputado.
I met him when he was an assembly member.
Y lo echaron del Congreso.
And they threw him out of Congress.
Y lo persiguieron.
And they persecuted him. They jailed him.
Murieron.
A lot of his fellow strugglers died.
Nosotros también nos tocó lo propio.
And us too. We had our own experience.
Right.
Muchos compañeros murieron.
A lot of our brothers died as well.
Mucho a prisión.
A lot of us went to prison.
Pero la conciencia.
But consciousness.
Por eso tú estás haciendo lo correcto.
That's why you're doing the right thing.
La vía no es estrellar un avión.
The path is not to fly an airplane into a building.
Crear conciencia.
It's to create consciousness.
Y luego lo demás vendrá solo.
And then the rest will come on its own.
Yo aprovecho para
CPRmetro.org.
I'd like to take this moment to say hello to the people of the United States.
Nosotros aquí en el sur.
And us here in the south.
Tenemos mucha fe.
We have a lot of faith.
En que el norte despertará.
And that the people of the north are going to wake up.
Como tú has despertado.
Just like you have awoken.
Como muchos están despertando.
Just like many have had awakenings.
Pueden hacer grandes cambios.
We can do great changes in the United States.
Y en paz, ojalá.
And in a peaceful way, I hope.
Porque de lo que ocurre en Estados Unidos.
Because what happens in the United States.
De esos cambios en Estados Unidos.
Those changes in the United States.
Depende. En mucho.
Depend a lot.
El futuro del mundo.
The future of the world depends on that a lot. Eva, would you like to say something?
Por favor.
Please. Que si puedes decir algo sobre esa inspiración que dan de aquí, de Sudamérica.
Acabo de terminar una reunión con el compañero Galeano.
I just finished a meeting with Eduardo Galeano.
Oh, I know. Yes, I know him.
Yo lo conozco.
Siempre inspirador.
He's so inspirational.
De los pueblos.
From the people.
De la naturaleza.
Nature.
Galeano va a ir a la inauguración del cambio.
Galeano is also going to the inauguration of Pepe Mujica.
¿Qué fecha es eso?
Oh. 20
de marzo, ¿no?
They're talking about
in
20th
de abril.
Y ahí llevaron unos planteamientos.
And he's going to bring some strategies, proposals. We're going to have a meeting with Galeano and the cocoa workers.
Una universidad de escuchar a ellos sobre la igualdad, sobre la dignidad.
To talk about equality and our experiences.
Lo difícil es cómo unirnos.
The difficult thing is how to unite us and how to raise our consciousness.
Lo que usted decía.
For what you're talking about. The power resides with the people.
ese momento estaba reunido con el comandante Borges.
I was just with
Tomás Borges.
Estaba reunido
Comandante Borges, Tomás Borges from Nicaragua. They were talking about issues of consciousness in Peru and Colombia. So how to build a big movement, political movement. But the issue is unity.
Right.
Well, in
our experience, in my experience,
primero nos juntamos los sectores más despreciados,
first the sort of
los más odiados,
the hated, the marginalized. We united first, the farmers and the indigenous. And from that
tan importante a unir a los partidos de izquierda.
Just like that unity, we need to do that with the political parties on the left.
Después se unen los sectores obreros.
And then the workers
la Central
unite.
Obrera Boliviana. Esa es la fuerza que tenemos.
Those are the forces that we have.
El poder del pueblo, como está aquí.
That's the power that the people have.
Y llegar a eso, pues, es concientización.
To get there is hard. You have to raise consciousness.
My documentary is called We Are All Americans.
Mi documental se llama Todos Somos Americanos.
It comes from when I was being interviewed on Fox News.
Se trata de una experiencia cuando me entrevistaron en Fox News.
Sean Hannity told me that how could I meet with anti-American dictator Hugo Chavez? And I said, but Sean, he is an American.
Yo dije, pero Sean, él es un americano.
We're all Americans, and that's where the consciousness has to be raised, and the unity has to come from in realizing that. And so it's been my highest honor to sit with you, Presidente, your hospitality of Venezuela, and to finally meet you. I was invited to Bolivia to help to support you for your recall. But I was running for Congress against Nancy Pelosi in the United States. It was a bad time. I lost.
Yo perdí. Fue un mal momento.
I didn't
Era
win.
candidata contra Nancy Pelosi in California.
Venceremos.
But we will prevail.
We will be victorious.
Te voy a decir algo.
Seremos victoriosos.
Para terminar, porque tenemos que irnos a
Thank you so much.
We have to end, but I want to say something to you.
Hace apenas 5 días estábamos nosotros en Cancún.
Just about 5 days ago, we were in Cancun.
I know.
Íbamos saliendo
We were on our way out
en un hotel donde estaba la prensa
from a hotel, and the press was there,
y hay unos turistas
and there were some tourists
de California.
from California.
Yo me acerco
And so I went up to them,
y saludo a una señora,
and I
su
said
hija,
hi to a woman and her child, and another woman.
con mucho afecto,
A lot of affection.
espontáneo afecto.
It was spontaneous.
Y yo le decía después a mis compañeros,
And then I told my
yo he
friends,
conseguido turistas
I found tourists.
estadounidenses,
I found U.S. tourists,
de adultos mayores,
older adults,
mujeres jóvenes,
young women,
caballeros,
men,
adolescentes.
adolescents.
Nunca. Los he conseguido en Japón,
I've met with them in Japan, Moscow,
en
Peking,
el Caribe,
in the Caribbean,
en todas partes del mundo.
everywhere around
En
the
Buenos
world.
Aires.
In Buenos Aires.
Yo nunca he sentido
I've never felt
una sola mirada de odio,
one look of hate,
sino afecto.
but rather affection.
De forma tal que, a pesar de todo,
So I think that despite everything,
yo creo
I believe
que el pueblo de los Estados Unidos,
the people of the United States,
ahí en el fondo de su corazón,
in the depths of their hearts,
sabe apreciar
they know how to appreciate
dónde está la mentira
where lies are
y dónde está la verdad.
and where the truth is.
Por eso tenemos grandes esperanzas.
That's why we have such hope.
Y vaya este corazón
And here's my heart
para ese pueblo.
for that people, for those people of the United States.
United States.
The United States.
A nosotros nos llaman líderes anti-estadounidenses.
They call us anti-United States leaders, anti-American
No lo
leaders.
somos.
But we're not.
Lo que somos es anti-imperialistas.
We're anti-imperialists.
Pero amamos.
Yeah.
But we love.
Amamos al pueblo de
We
Estados Unidos.
love the people of the United States.
Amamos la humanidad.
We love humanity.
Thank you,
Muchas
Cindy.
gracias por todo.
And that was Cindy Sheehan, a twofer there, interviewing both President Hugo Chavez, who passed away the other day, and Evo Morales, President Evo Morales of Bolivia. So, pretty interesting, huh? Cindy Sheehan can be heard every Sunday right here on CPRmetro.org with Cindy Sheehan Soapbox. She is a producer for CPR Metro. Okay, up next is this week's edition of Inside Out with Susan Madaris from Press TV. This week they cover the follow-up that hasn't really been happening to Hurricane Sandy for the people affected by that. And also Storm Nemo. That's the snowstorm we had a little ways back. And guess who else is involved in this piece?
A potentially record-breaking snowstorm called Nemo brought the U.S. Northeast to a grinding halt, killing 9 people just months after Superstorm Sandy hit the same region. Over 700,000 lost power amid flight cancellations that totaled up to 5,200 flights, and a nuclear plant was shut down as authorities declared an emergency situation in 5 states. The blizzard caused havoc by dropping up to 3 feet of snow. And a point of serious concern, as mentioned, was the superstorm's timing. Shortly after Hurricane Sandy devastated many of the same places, the snowstorm brought in more challenges to people struggling to get life back together. Affected homes from Sandy are still in need of reconstruction with no insulation or heating. Many still have to resort to shelters or family and friends' homes during the harsh weather conditions and snowstorms. These storm victims are still waiting for the federal aid money to be sent to their battered communities. Aid has been approved, but it's been a slow and frustrating process in actual recovery for the restoration of these communities. I'm Susan Madaris. Join me on this edition of Inside Out as we take a look at life after Sandy and now the challenges that lie ahead after Snowstorm Nemo. 3 months after Sandy struck and now the blizzard Nemo, thousands of storm victims in New York and New Jersey are stuck in limbo. They're waiting for the heat to come on, for insurance money to come through, for loans to be approved. They're basically waiting in a broader sense for their unpended lives to get back to normal. While Congress passed the $50.5 billion emergency aid package, many say the rebuilding has been complicated over the past several weeks by bureaucracy. Some people are still living in mold-infested homes, while others are desperately trying to persuade the city to tear theirs down. Illegal immigrants who don't qualify for federal aid are struggling to scrape by. Small businesses are shutting down in neighborhoods where nobody seems to shop anymore. Federal officials say they understand the frustration and are working as quickly as possible to compensate people for their losses and rebuild. Federal Emergency Management Agency, known as FEMA, stated that the infrastructure and the homes that were in place that Sandy took away took a lot longer than 90 days to be built up and put into place. They did offer consolation that they were not leaving until they get it done.
I was living on 96th Street on the ground floor. Apartment flooded. Right before the storm, I was laid off from my job, so then I had no job, no apartment. It was pretty liberating in a way, but also really difficult, you know? So I was displaced for about 2 months. I'm still retrieving my possessions from various friends' apartments, and yeah, it's been really hard. The public transportation coming in and out is still, you know, very difficult. The buses stop running at midnight.
Yeah, the neighborhood is still dirty, and that's hard with the kids. There's not a lot of stuff open. There's not a lot of places to go.
We lost the whole downstairs of our house. we live in a bungalow, so we lost our couch and our TV. Our fridge was big giant fridge on its back.
The October 29th storm damaged or destroyed 305,000 housing units and disrupted more than 265,000 businesses in New York State alone. About 14,000 housing units have been repaired so far through New York City's Rapid Repairs program. In New Jersey, over 340,000 housing units were destroyed or damaged and 190,000 businesses affected. From that number, 18,000 households have received aid for repairs from FEMA. Those running 24-hour relief hubs in the affected areas compare the area to a war zone and express their grievances that the situation looks no better than it did 3 or 4 months ago. When the storm Nemo was making its way through, many shelters stocked up to provide Sandy victims a safe haven of heat and nourishment. In the meantime, residents in these Sandy-torn communities feel that they've been fighting the whole time to convince the city that flood-damaged homes must be torn down. Contractors have advised certain homes to be demolished, then salvaged, but the city's building department disagrees. Therefore, many are caught between the red tape. Some are using FEMA aid to rent out a temporary living situation, but many families can't move forward until either more federal aid is received or local governments cooperate more in their reconstruction requests.
Well, one of the first things I did when I made it off the peninsula to Brooklyn and got to internet was file a claim with FEMA. It took 11 days for someone to show up, and by the time they got to the apartment, it had already been gutted because we had to act quickly with getting, you know, any water-soaked things out. Everyone had to just start working immediately. You know, there was no time to deal with any kind of emotion. Everyone just kind of had to get to work.
Steve Longwood, an investigative journalist based in New York City, says not everyone is lucky enough to receive a check from FEMA, even if they believe it to be applicable.
Although more than 230,000 New York storm victims have applied for housing help from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the feds have approved $664 million, many have been rejected by FEMA for a host of reasons that range from the ridiculous to the confounding.
Longwood has interviewed hundreds of families who've been affected by Sandy and says that the process of getting a check is often time-consuming and exhausting.
A growing number of homeowners in waterfront properties affected most by Sandy, such as Howard Beach and the Rockaways in Queens, came forward to complain about FEMA denials that left them confused and angry. FEMA provides grants of up to $31,900 for both homeowners and renters for either rent repairs or lost contents, but only for damage not covered by insurance. In the last few weeks, the agency has sent out form rejections, even though homeowners and renters still haven't heard from their insurers about what's covered and what isn't. With the harsh weather bringing blizzards and nor'easters, it's been a rough winter for the Sandy victims. They are being met with delayed reconstruction of their homes and lives. And on top of that, you had Snowstorm Nemo hit just 3 months after Sandy, so before many of these families had a chance to recover, they had to essentially start all over.
Families with children have been the most vulnerable group.
There's nightmares, especially like with the kids, you know. It leaves you unsettled and worried, but you know, we love our neighborhood, and it was hard to see so many people lose so much.
It just seems to me that there really isn't any kind of rhyme or reason with how they operate. The guy who did my inspection was a private contractor hired by FEMA, and my roommate and my landlord, who, you know, we all live at the same address, all filed claims. And when he finally showed up, I was like, great, can you do, you know, my landlord and my roommate as well since you're here? And he said no, that it's all individual cases, so they have to wait. So everyone was like waiting, and it just really didn't make any sense.
We were away from home from the storm. We didn't have electricity or heat until January. We had to move our business and couldn't come home, so.
Don DeBar is a radio host of the morning show airing on CPRmetro.org. He's also a contributor to the book The Illegal War on Libya. DeBar had done extensive research on the challenges of the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. We talked about the parallels between Hurricane Katrina and Sandy, and I asked them if the government can put more pressure on insurance companies in providing checks to those who desperately need it in the aftermath of the recent storms.
In the United States, insurance companies are one of the largest financial concerns in the economy. You have here in New York City, for example, the economy is dominated by what they call fire. That's it has the insurance is the second item there: finance, insurance, and real estate. And government officials of any consequence are essentially funded by insurance companies, real estate interests, and Wall Street finance. So for the government to tell insurance companies to do this or that would require that the government officials are independent of the insurance companies, and in fact they're not. The individuals that are exercising government power are not. So you have that problem first. Secondly, the assumption is that the disaster relief apparatus, in toto, is designed to actually provide disaster relief to people in need who suffer the consequences of these disasters. And in fact, it is something quite different that drives it. You have contractors who are there whether or not there's an absolute need or a particular need for what they contract to provide, rather because, again, they have sponsored economically, financially, or politically this or that candidate, this or that government official, and the policy reflects the reality of this relationship. So, the assumption that people on the ground have that FEMA is there to help them when they're in distress, that their insurance companies are going to honor the contracts that they believe they have with the insurance companies, they rest on those faulty foundations. That's the first problem.
He added that the second problem is that when you're faced with a natural disaster, you also have certain legal emergency provisions that operate to actually absolve both government and the private industry from other obligations they might normally have.
So they actually have, as counterintuitive as it might seem, more latitude to not pay in practical terms and in legal terms than they would have under ordinary circumstances. And so that compounds the problem.
Navigating the often frustrating and confusing insurance policies is also a challenge for someone who's never had to deal with this sort of problem before. The victims often find out down the road what is covered and what is not.
An insurance contract is a very difficult commodity for the average insured to really understand. You have, 4 pages, 8, 10 pages of really fine print, very legalistic in its language, with very specific meaning that is counterintuitive, if not non-intuitive, to a layperson. And so, from the outset, there's a mindset on the part of the insurance companies and somewhere in the middle of the courts as to what the insurance contract means, and then another mindset in the head of the insured that comes more from the public relations that was delivered to them, that part of it by their insurance salesman or whatever, that this is what is covered. When you actually file a claim, you find out that it's something quite different that you own. That's the first part of it. In addition, most insurance contracts are entered into by the insureds to protect themselves against catastrophic loss. For example, the loss of everything. So you're in a condition where you have no home and you lost most of your possessions, and perhaps a family member or some family members have been injured or even killed. So you're in a very stressful position to even function as a human being, let alone to take on a multi-billion-dollar insurance company to receive your compensation.
In regard to FEMA giving arbitrary reason to not fund affected people, DeBar says the problem is that the process is not needs-driven, but rather heavily bureaucratic.
There's a lot of places from top to bottom where the funds can get held up, and there is a complete lack of accountability from the bottom up when the funds are not delivered.
Residents in waterfront properties like Rockaway, Queens, were nervous about the impact of Snowstorm Nemo. Advocates and residents have stressed that the destroyed boardwalk eroded beach, and diminished dunes have left people living by the water vulnerable to storm surges and flooding.
So Nemo, you know, there was a little bit of a surge, and I was here, and the water did come up, you know, it came all the way up to the concrete stanchions there. And the only thing that protected us was, you know, some of that sand that they put in place actually had a lot of soil in it, I noticed, which is good because it didn't wash away.
We need some dunes, we need something. There's the, you know, the ocean's right there. We need something.
Meanwhile, in Staten Island, another highly affected sandy area, about 80% of the 183 homeowners in an area of Oakwood Beach are asking New York State to buy them out of their houses at pre-storm rates and use the land as a barrier to protect the rest of the borough from future storm damage. The water surged more than 10 feet high in Oakwood Beach during Hurricane Sandy. Homes were damaged beyond repair, and now many homeowners are calling on Governor Andrew Cuomo to buy them out so they can rebuild their lives somewhere else.
What happened in Staten Island was that the storm surge sent sewage and fuel-contaminated water up above his shed and knee-deep onto his deck and first floor. Governor Andrew Cuomo has a plan to set aside $400 million of the $50.5 billion aid budget approved by Congress to pay 100% of the home's pre-storm value plus 5% for acting as a group. A lot of residents see it as their best option because the ocean is very close to their homes, leaving them vulnerable even after reconstruction. So, the governor's proposal includes building a buffer along the shoreline, which would include the marshland to protect Staten Island.
Longwood says not everyone's on board with the governor's proposal.
Some homeowners just don't want to leave. Some rather get the money to rebuild their homes than what they see as being forced out of their homes. They are currently building their own homes with the help of neighbors and family, and they don't want to leave the communities they built their lives upon. They're outraged that the governor could even force them to leave like that. But like I said, others understand that they don't want to be prime targets for the next big storm to hit and are seriously considering the offer.
In the wake of Hurricane Sandy, residents of Rockaway and small business owners Robin Hillman Harrington and Lillian Gerson formed the Rockaway Rescue Alliance to offer support to their neighbors. In collaboration with local businesses and individuals, they launched the Shore Soup Project, which delivers meals, mostly hot soup, from farm fresh produce donated by Grow NYC and other farmer organizations to those in need.
So the Shore Soup Project is a community-based grassroots organization. Basically, we formed after Hurricane Sandy because we live here in Rockaway, we're part of the community, and we saw the destruction that had occurred due to the storm. And we saw that a lot of people were really confused, really stressed out, in shock, and needing support, whether it was that they needed actual food or they just needed somebody to come up to them and check on them and see how they were doing. So we started cooking a lot of food and giving it out to people for free, primarily soup and also fresh salads and fruit. And it's all sort of local farm fresh produce that we've had donated to us through Grow NYC. But we really started just by going around door to door and asking people if they wanted something to eat and checking on them.
Shore Soup evolved from their original shorefront mobile business, Shore Fruit, previously located on the boardwalk that is now destroyed, overlooked by flooded homes and structurally compromised buildings covered in black mold.
I mean, I think that it was really confusing for a long time. We didn't have power. Most people didn't have, everybody for quite a long time didn't have lights, didn't have phone service, didn't have internet. So it was really hard to get the help that was out there. And there has been, the FEMA did come in eventually, and the Red Cross, and there were different organizations that offered support, but people found it hard to access that support. It was very complicated, confusing to get disaster unemployment or to get FEMA or various things. So for a long time, people were just needing the basics, just temporary housing, shelter, food. Because if you really, everybody lost a lot. The floods just went through every building. So even if you weren't on the first floor, didn't have all your belongings destroyed, you probably were in a situation where you didn't have power and you didn't have heat, so you couldn't live in your home for a couple of months at least.
For the past 4 months, they've delivered an average of over 800 hot meals door-to-door daily and have reached a range of different populations, including homebound seniors, families without access to healthy food, individuals living in public housing, and affected renters and homeowners. With a network of over 400 volunteers, they are one of the few grassroots organizations still standing.
The first, I would say, 2 months after the storm, there was a very dramatic need because a lot of people were just literally on the street looking for some sort of support and lining up for food at various distribution centers. There were a lot of distribution centers running at one point, and now we're one of the few that's still going because a lot of people have had to stop because they didn't have the funds to continue. But it's really all been community-based, just different people springing up and saying, I want to run this thing out of my church, or I want to, just start this thing out of the surf club or various other locations. And so what we were doing at that time was between 600 and 1,000 meals a day because there's really a huge need. So we turned our whole apartment into a huge kitchen, and we had over 20 volunteers each day, and we were cooking a very, as I said, a large quantity of soup, and we were just getting it out there to people, knocking on doors, going into NYCHA buildings, which are the public housing buildings, and going to private houses and just checking on everyone as much as we could, trying to spread out around the peninsula. And now it's changed a little bit. People are getting back to work, which is great, and people are getting back to school. So we're not doing door-to-door in the same way, but we have our phone number on our containers. So when we do give out a soup to someone, then they always have our phone number, and they can call us and order. So now we're at the stage where we're starting to get a lot of orders from people in the community, and some people who are homebound especially have placed weekly orders so that they know that we can come once a week and bring them 7 soups, so they have one every day, and things like that are happening a lot.
Donations are generally made by writing a check out to Fund for the City of New York, and donors must make sure to specify Shore Soup Project donation in the memo. This is to make sure the money gets to the right hands. When I asked Robin about reconstruction efforts, she says the road to recovery has been overwhelming for many, especially those left on their own.
Generally, a lot of people are somewhat on their own to fix up their houses. There are different programs that are in place now through New York City rapid repairs and things like that. But you have to apply for those programs, and not everybody has done that, so not everybody is getting help through that, and they're only able to help so many people as well. There are also a couple of programs that are doing demolding and rebuilding of people's foundations to their homes. But as I said, a lot of people are still on their own to do the rewiring and to purchase new boilers and to do some of the things that are necessary to get their houses up and running. Or they're in a waiting pattern trying to get insurance money that hasn't come through yet, or trying to get one of those programs to work for them.
As the community's needs have evolved, Shore Soup has decided to expand their project into a long-term sustainable pay-as-you-can restaurant.
We're hoping to launch it as a food truck first so that we can, realistically get it done by the time the summer season starts, because we'd love to be able to continue to provide access to healthy food to people in the community, as well as people who come in from the larger New York City community who return to the beaches. We've always done healthy food, and that's what we are concerned with, and we think that when you eat a healthy, nourishing meal, it gets you through the day. It helps you deal with some of the other major stresses that are happening in our community right now that I personally can't fix. I can't totally prepare us for another storm. I can't, fix the housing problems. And there are a lot of major issues that, maybe I can't successfully tackle, but I can get some really great meals out to people, and I think that can get people a little bit further.
Robin concludes by noting that many victims feel that they've been forgotten, and there is a widespread misconception that recovery efforts are done.
I think there's a misperception that after a few months, when the streets start getting cleaned up, that the disaster's over, but it's going to be a really long time before we actually really recover, not only economically, but emotionally, psychologically. It's been a huge trauma, and there's a lot that we all are going to need to do to rebuild our lives.
The main concern for anyone in the path of these recent snowstorms is how to prevent future devastations, like the ones witnessed in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy and Snowstorm Nemo. With spring around the corner, it might not be right away. However, sooner or later, the wrath of Mother Nature will arise. But before any physical strategy can be implemented, scientists say that feasibility and environmental impact studies must be conducted to move forward. That's all the time we have for this edition of Inside Out. Thanks so much for staying with us and watching. Remember, you can always send me your emails to insideout@susanmadaris.com. I'm always looking forward to them. You can also follow me on Twitter for latest updates and discussions. From all of us here in the Rockaways, goodbye.
Thank you, Susan Madaris and Press TV for this week's edition of Inside Out. And thanks for the opportunity to participate, by the way. They came to me. I was at the Pacifica National Board meeting, actually. They came to me, and we went upstairs to the penthouse. There's a restaurant that's closed, and so we had the run of the place, more or less. And so it was an interesting discussion, and I was glad to have an opportunity to participate in it. Okay, up next is this week's edition of Money Trail, and they have been covering individual elements of the ruling clique around the country, around the world, rather. Last week, the Rockefellers. This week, the Bilderberg Group. Next week, Carlyle. Things like that. So we're going to jump right into that now. This is from Press TV also. This is this week's edition of Money Trail. From Press TV. This is CPRmetro.org, Community Progressive Radio for the Metropolitan New York area and the world. And Bernard, welcome back. Stay tuned today. We'll be bringing you live sound from Caracas and maybe even some video. We have two people on the ground. One's there already, another landing early this afternoon.
Hello, welcome to Money Trail with me, Amir Arafat. Today, an open, secret coalition of money and power. A shadow world government called the Bilderberg Group.
They control the money.
When you control the purse strings, you control the world.
They control the food.
They're poisoning our people.
They even decide who will live and who will die.
Many have identified them as the kingmakers, the puppet masters that pull the strings behind the scenes. Meet the Bilderberg Group. This elite group meet annually around the globe. There is a core group of members who have attended every year for decades, such as David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, and Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. These members invite others who are politically and socially relevant at the time. Each year, around 140 people are in attendance.
Bilderbergers comprise the world's most exclusive club. No one buys their way in. Only the group's steering committee decides whom to invite. And in all cases, participants are adherents to one world order governance run by top power elites. 1/3 of the attendees are political figures. The others are from industry, finance, academia, labor, and communications.
They're comprised of powerful politicians, powerful business people, people from academia, people from the media, religious people, people from other walks of life, and they're sworn to secrecy.
Membership consists of annual attendees, around 80 to 110 of the world's most powerful, and others only invited occasionally because of their knowledge or involvement in relevant topics. According to steering committee rules, the invited guests must come alone. No wives, husbands, or friends. Personal assistants, meaning security, bodyguards, CIA, or other Secret Service protectors cannot attend the conference and must eat in a separate hall. The guests are explicitly forbidden from giving interviews to journalists or divulge anything that goes on in the meetings. Host governments provide overall security to keep away outsiders.
Famous guests at the group's meetings have included Giovanni Agnelli, then president of Italy's Fiat auto giant, and Henry Kissinger, Bill Clinton, Tony Blair.
One serious question. You denied being a member of the Bilderberg Group. The Guardian reported that you came there in 1993. What do you say to those people who have questions about the Bilderberg Group?
About the Bilderberg Group? Yeah, it's a really useful group, actually. I remember going there back to that in 1993, and it's a great way, too, from people from different parts of the world to get together. So it's been good.
Do you think it's a conflict of interest? I mean, the heads of media, corporations, banking, meeting without the media even mentioning it?
I don't know. It may have changed a bit since my day.
And Angela Merkel attended before assuming public office, as did Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the UN. and Anne was married to Raoul Wallenberg's niece. Wallenberg, as we stated before, is the patriarch of the powerful Swedish family that has supported the group from its very beginning. Other participants have included Henry Ford II, Georges Pompidou, Helmut Schmidt, and Baron Edmund de Rothschild, together with the father of the American atomic bomb, J. Robert Oppenheimer. More names follow: Donald Rumsfeld, Alan Greenspan, George Soros, David Rockefeller, Queen Beatrice of the Netherlands, and US Senator and former presidential candidate, John Kerry. The list, while incomplete, represents the greatest amount of economic and political power ever concentrated in one single organization.
We see President Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush. These are the players. Who is pulling the strings?
Well, one of the things the Bilderbergers do is they basically select, they interview candidates to be president of the United States. So, you know, Bill Clinton went over and got the Bilderberg blessing, and the Bushes went over and got the Bilderberg blessing. When they sit down candidly to speak in private, they decide what agendas they want, who's going to win. Just before, in 2008, just before Barack Obama became president in the United States, he and Hillary Clinton went to the Bilderberg meeting in Chantilly, Virginia, stayed a couple of days and left. And so we see that they control who gets to have the nomination for whichever fake party we have here in the United States, you know, libertarian or Democratic or Republican.
Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, for example, who attended in 1991, there David Rockefeller told him why the North American Free Trade Agreement was a Bilderberg priority and that the group needed him to support it. The next year, Clinton was elected president, and on January the 1st of 1994, NAFTA took effect. Numerous other examples are similar, including who gets chosen for powerful government, military, and other key positions.
I happened to be in Europe then on my way to Russia. I was invited to go to Bilderberg by Vernon Jordan, a friend of mine and a genuine hero of the civil rights movement. And to the best of my knowledge, NAFTA was not discussed by anybody in my presence.
Documents released by the group in 2001 revealed that in September of 1955, the group met in Germany and covertly outlined the idea of a European Union. Section E, European Unity, discusses the general support for European integration and unification, and the idea to unify Germany once again with the rest of Europe under a common marketplace.
Years after participating in a Bilderberg meeting, George McGee, former United States ambassador to Germany, said that the Treaty of Rome that created the European Common Market was born in the Bilderberg meetings. Jack Schenkman, chairman of Amalgamated Bank and also a Bilderberg member, said in 1996, the idea of a common European currency was discussed a great many years before it came about. We also discussed the possibility of the United States re-establishing diplomatic relations with China before President Nixon actually did it.
But if these people are so very important and influential, and their meetings all the more important, simply discussing the whole world and all the decisions and policies to be made, where are the mainstream media? The media that cover every single detail, every corner of Earth. From some police car chase out there in Manhattan to the American Idol.
I spent 20 happy years with the mainstream media. I was asked, what do you think about Bilderberg? I said, I'd never heard of them. I was shocked and outraged that I could be in the news business all my life and not be aware of a group called Bilderberg. But at that point, I made it my business to check those turkeys out quite thoroughly.
Get off the property, please.
Well, Jim has some questions for you.
I need you to move off the property.
Jim Tucker says there's a reason most people haven't heard of the Bilderbergs. The ones who control the mainstream media are part of the group or answer to it.
If 120 NFL football players or if 120 film stars went behind locked and guarded doors for a 3-day closed meeting, you'd bust your butts trying to find out what transpired. But now you have no curiosity. You don't dare. Your publisher will not let you have any curiosity.
If you're looking to the mainstream media to give you information, you're getting what these secret societies like the Bilderberg and the Trilateral and the Council on Foreign Relations want you to know, so that you support them and you don't fight against it. You know, you just go along with the flow.
The major stations on approximately 6 to 9 different major corporations around the world leads to the success of the secrecy and corruption that we see in the world. And so the Bilderberg Group was founded on that premise in 1954 to use a combination of secrecy plus corruption plus gaining control of governmental policies around the world so they could enhance their wealth.
How many people in Britain have heard of the Bilderberg Group? In America, anywhere around the world? The Bilderberg Group, what's that? And I understand that. No one ever talks about it, really. But I've talked to journalists about the Bilderberg Group. Bilderberg Group, what's that? I haven't got a bloody clue. So, isn't it funny that the Bilderberg Group seems to be rather influential? Tony Blair, Bilderberg Group. Gordon Brown, Bilderberg Group, leading players in the present British government. Now, of course, the opposition chancellor to Gordon Brown was Kenneth Clark, Bilderberg Group. Let's look at the head of the World Bank, James Wolfenson, Bilderberg Group. Let's look at the first 2 heads of the World Trade Organization, Peter D. Sutherland of Ireland and Renato Ruggiero of Italy, Bilderberg Group. Wherever you look, this thing comes up and no one's ever friggin' heard of it.
So when they're sitting there in their secret meetings, and you have a lot of heads from print and television, mainstream media, if you watch closely, like I said, between about 5 or 6 months after the Bilderberg meetings, you'll start to see their agendas coming out, which way they want to sway the audience and gain support. Because media is very influential. A lot of people have been programmed to think that what they're told from this idiot box is what's actually going on.
Sometimes it leaks out. For example, in June 2002, the American Free Press reported from a leak from a person who had attended the meeting then that the group had decided to postpone the Iraq War until March 2003. Well, guess what? We had a war in March 2003. This is the kind of power they have, and it's not reported by the major media they control.
For over 14 years, Daniel Estulin has investigated and researched the Bilderberg Group's far-reaching influence in business and finance, global politics, war and peace, and control of the world's resources and its money.
The center of this conspiracy is this group of people called the Bilderberg, is more powerful than any nation on earth, destined to control the necessities of the planet.
In his book, The True Story of the Bilderberg Group, he states that in 1954, the most powerful men in the world met for the first time in Oosterbeek, Netherlands, debated the future of the world, and decided to meet annually in secret. They called themselves the Bilderberg Group.
The Bilderberg Group, or Bilderberg Club, it's the name of the hotel in the Netherlands on the outskirts of Amsterdam, and that's where they met for the first time in 1954.
Ever since the Bilderberg Group first met, the exact purpose of the talks has never been fully explained. The delegates meet in secret for 3 days of discussions, but nothing they talk about is ever revealed afterwards.
The front face for this group was Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. He's from Germany with Nazi connections, but married into the Dutch royal family. They actually had to cancel one of their meetings one year because he was in so many legal problems about the exposure of the bribes he was taking from Lockheed in making sure that Lockheed sold some of their planes to the Dutch. But that he also served on hundreds of boards of major corporations. I mean, who needs a monarch sitting on the board of directors of major world corporations? I mean, what could he possibly bring to the table?
The Nazi background of Prince Bernhard did not stop the Bilderberg Group from being supported by Social Democrats, or by the Rothschild Bank, or the Rockefellers, both of Jewish origin. Other early sponsors included the Wallenbergs, owners of Electrolux and Ericsson in Sweden. All of them still actively participate in the annual general meetings of the group, either directly or through their representatives.
Queen Beatrix's father was one of the founders of the Bilderberg, and she has since taken on some of the roles of making sure that everything runs smoothly, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. And it started off where heads of state and heads of corporations and people who were influential in politics and in circles, you know, for getting laws passed and things done, would sit down in secret and discuss how they were going to effectively get their agenda passed using propaganda and using politicians and using corporations in order to change the world toward a new world order, a one world government, one world currency.
People who attend Bilderberg are the most powerful leaders of every European and North American nation. Would them sit representatives of royalty, representatives of European Parliament, European commissioners, President of the European Central Bank, the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, Federal Reserve, top 50 CEOs of the world's most powerful corporations. And they're joined by the leading lights of the world mainstream media, Washington Post, New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek, The Economist, Wall Street Journal, which is one of the reasons, again, most people have never heard of the Bilderberg.
For over half a century, no agenda or discussion topics have become public, nor is any press coverage allowed. The few invited are sworn to secrecy. Meeting procedures by Chatham House rules, letting attendees freely express their views in a relaxed atmosphere, knowing nothing said will be quoted or revealed to the public. Meetings are always frank, but do not always conclude with consensus.
Usually every 3 years they meet in the United States, and the rest of the time they meet in Europe. The hotels that they book, they're 5-star luxury hotels. The way it works is 120 people, they break into 6 groups of 20, and they look at each issue in the morning sessions from different perspectives. And then in the afternoon, each perspective reached by a group is discussed on a general level. And then a consensus is reached.
According to Esalen, whatever its early mission, the group is now a shadow world government threatening to take away our right to direct our own destinies by creating a disturbing reality, very much harming the public's welfare. In short, Bilderbergers want to supplant individual nation-state sovereignty with an all-powerful global government, corporate-controlled and checkmated by militarized enforcement. Imagine a private club where presidents, prime ministers, international bankers, and generals rub shoulders, where gracious royal chaperones ensure everyone gets along, and where the people running the wars, markets in Europe and America say what they never dare say in public.
The inner circle of the Bilderbergs has been around for centuries.
I'm telling you, about 50-60% of the participants have absolutely no idea that there is a very organized structure that goes back centuries. I found that what's today called Bilderberg 800 years ago already existed. It was called the Venetian Black Nobility right after the Fourth Crusade.
Early in its history, Bilderbergers decided to create an aristocracy of purpose between Europe and the United States to reach consensus to rule the world on matters of policy, economics, and overall strategy.
On the outskirts of the national capital today, black limousines with darkened windows converged on a hotel where private security guards imposed ironclad control. The limos carry royalty, political power brokers, and industrial titans to a secret meeting that will last all weekend. It's known as the Bilderberg Group.
What exactly is it the Bilderbergers want? What is it their sister trilateralists want and other secret societies? All they want is free trade, NAFTA, CAFTA, World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, in essence, a world government.
Could their objective be world domination?
They want supreme, unchallenged global dominance. I wrote about them a few years ago. I've got a checklist. I didn't want a chance to memory. Let me tell you in a checklist, ticking off some points, exactly what the Bilderberg agenda is. I'll just start off by saying it is extremely destructive and ugly. And their idea of a perfect world is one international entity under one set of universal values. What are they? The values that benefit them, that harm everybody else.
They like to say that if you look at ancient Greek history, you'll notice that the city-states were powerful back in those days, but the city-states weren't big enough to last and survive. Today they're saying that we don't need nations anymore. We need to expand so that the nations have very small power and very small roles in the world, and that the world needs to be run by a small elite group of wealthy business interests, bankers, and so-called intellectuals.
Centralized control of world populations by mind control. They want to manipulate the public mind to go along with what they want to do, so they are unchallenged.
They believe in centralized control of people, mind control. The major media corporations of the world are unfortunately watched by the vast majority of the population of the world who don't have enough intelligence to realize they're being lied to.
They want a new world order with no middle class, composed of rulers and serfs. Nobody in the middle. They're the boss. Everybody is a serf. The serfs obey. Anybody who disobeys gets targeted for elimination.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
It used to be more secretive. You know, the New World Order was talked about 30 or 40 years ago, and nobody would say it out and open. Now they talk about the New World Order, or they just think the world would be better off if we had one world government.
There's a need for a new world order.
But there's a very, very clear-cut and easily identifiable system in place that puts all of these elements, from media control to government control to energy control, together into one apparatus working together effectively towards its final goal, which is, global control.
A new world is emerging. It is a new world order.
It's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, and that is a new world order.
Along with military dominance, controlling the world's money is crucial, for with it comes absolute control, as a powerful 19th century Rothschild family understood. As the patriarch Amschel Rothschild once said, "Give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws."
They like a zero-growth society. That one's a little bit obscure. It's hard to know what they mean by that. But they say, without prosperity or progress, only greater wealth and power for them at the expense of everybody else. I think a good way of explaining it is to explain what's going on now. There's no growth going on in most Western countries. Growth is actually declining in major ones: Britain, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Greece, Portugal, Ireland. But the bankers are having a party. How can the bankers make money when the economies are declining? Because the central banks that they either own or control print all the money that they ask for. And what do they do with this money? They use it to make more of it. They speculate with it. They steal. They stuff their pockets. They pay themselves big salaries and bonuses. So they benefit just fine, thank you very much. Ordinary people are harmed. Poverty is out of control. Unemployment is out of control. Homelessness, hunger, deprivation at record levels in America. And yet the bankers are supremely rich. Their stocks doing very, very well. Their profits, their bonuses, extremely high in economies that are very weak. This is a perfect world for the Bilderbergers.
They believe in perpetual imbalance. They want to have artificially created crises around the world that will further increase their wealth.
They also believe in manufactured crises and permanent wars, because wars are profitable, and the more that are fought, the wealthier they get. They want absolute control of education, to program the public mind, to train those chosen for various roles, and to train others to be compliant.
They want centralized control of education. They want us all to be learning their propaganda.
One size fits all. The size they determine, the size they want, the size that benefits them at the expense of everybody else.
They want centralized control of foreign and domestic policies. They want the United Nations to become the world government. They want United Nations taxes.
They want the UN to act as a de facto world government, imposing a UN tax on everybody in the world.
They want expanded trading blocs such as NAFTA and the European Union to reduce the importance of individual countries and of individuals to have control over their destiny.
They want global trade policies, rules that they make that benefit them and, again, that harm everybody else. A global WTO, World Trade Organization. Again, they make the rules, nobody else does.
They want to expand NATO and other regional military forces, again, to weaken the power of individual countries.
They want NATO to be a global world enforcer. Challenge them, and NATO will ravage your country, murder your children, enslave you, destroy your country, to turn it to rubble. That's the role they want NATO to play. That's the perfect Bilderberg world. They make the rules. Everything goes the way they want. Anybody dissented, kill them. That's the Bilderberg world.
Well, thank you for watching. Always follow the money trail with me, Amir Arfa.
And thank you, Amir and Press TV, for this week's edition of Money Trail from Press TV. You are, by the way, listening to CPRmetro.org, community progressive radio for the metropolitan New York area and the world. From the metropolitan New York area to the world and beyond, wherever you may be. You're inside the CPR Morning Show with Don DeBar. That's me. And up next, before we have our Thursday session with Lister, Hugh, and Lowe, talking about what's going on in the world, we're first going to hear a piece of music. I was in the city yesterday. I live in the northern suburbs, and I went into Manhattan to do 2 TV interviews. I kind of had to hop around while I was in town. And on the way back, I took the train back to Ossining, where I live. And when I got off the train, I saw a friend of mine who's the jazz trumpet player, Ted Daniel. He lives in Ossining also. And we started talking, and he handed me his latest CD project. It's called Duology. It's Andrew Cyril with Ted Daniel and Michael Marcus, called Duology. And the first cut is what I'm going to play. It's called Vigilance, Song for Troy Davis. So let's go to that. And that was the CD duology. The drummer Andrew Cyril, the jazz drummer. Composition by Ted Daniel, the trumpet player, and featuring Andrew Cyril, Ted Daniel, and Michael Marcus. The name of the cut is Vigilance, song for Troy Davis, and it was written by Ted Daniel. This is CPRmetro.org, Community Progressive Radio for the Metropolitan New York area and the world. From the Metropolitan New York area to the world and beyond, wherever you may be, you're inside the CPR Morning Show with Don DeBar, and that's me. And I also have on the line with us Lister Hugh and Lowe, live from BK.
Hey, morning. Just in from Jamaica. It was fun. I ended up at a demonstration in Kingston.
You did?
Yes, to prevent the PNP from acting like the JLP. The JLP is a right-wing party. That's the party that refused to take the gas from Hugo Chavez.
Right.
And he offered the gas to Jamaica. So the PNP is in power, which is headed by Portia Simpson. She took the gas from Hugo Chavez. And what is happening now is that the IMF is now pressuring Jamaica to steal money from the masses. They have a thing that is similar to the Social Security. It's called the National Housing Trust. And Don, they have so much money in this pot that it's flowing over. These are all like poor people.
Right.
You know, they take all their money and put into this because they want to like have a little hut or a little house. But there's an overwhelming amount of money in this pot, the National Housing Trust, and they haven't built any houses significantly for any poor people. But Portia Simpson now, she's surrounded by a bunch of saboteurs who told her to put her hand in that pot and steal 25% of it to make the IMF happy. So I ended up on the front page of the Observer, and Lloyd called me and said, some guy called up on the radio and said, hey, the boy, we're Batman shot. What kind of thing that? Man, a disgrace, Marcus Garvey. You know, Jamaica is highly homophobic because of the churches, right?
Yeah, right. And you're talking about Lloyd D. Aguilar, by the way.
Yeah, Lloyd D. Aguilar. He sent to tell you hello.
Yep.
Seriously. But he didn't organize this. Some armchair, wheelchair, uppity people are somewhat removed from the masses organized it. And some backward political thinking Marcus Garvey people organized it. So what we did, we just crashed it and came down with some signs and, you know, took the whole thing over. It was fun. A lot of media came down and it just went on the news, the radio, etc. And then they ended up having a debate on the radio with Lloyd. It was like 3 against 1.
Wow.
Because I told him, make sure when you go on the TV in the debate, tell them Argentina kicked out the IMF and the World Bank, took over the banks, the manufacturing companies, etc. And today the economy grew by 6% when everybody is not growing. So don't go up there and tell them that it can't work. It has worked in a country called Argentina.
Well, for sure.
But let me switch to Operation Condor. Remember Operation Condor?
Yes, I do.
With Pinochet?
Yep.
And that crazy guy. Did Henry Kissinger die?
No,
he's dead, right?
I don't know. It looked like he was on his way there last night. I haven't seen the news in about an hour and a half or so.
Okay.
We can hope, though.
Okay, definitely.
To quote Hugo Chavez, we'll know when that happens when the smell of sulfur leaves the room.
Hey, Hugo is right. Hugo says those fascist popes are burning sulfur too.
That's right. That's right. They are.
Well, one good thing about Hugo Chavez's death that I tried to express on Burn Baby Burn this morning in the bunkers of the City College University radio station is that his death has galvanized the masses, the poor people, the downtrodden, and all of them are going out saying, I am, like Spartacus, I am Hugo Chavez.
Right.
Let me see you come over here and try and take this from us now.
Hey, they did that, it was 11 years ago now when they had the coup.
Yes, yeah, good point.
That's what happened. Chavez didn't engineer the defense. The people came out by millions, literally.
Oh, yeah. And is that the reason why they had to pardon him and release him
You
when
think?
he was in jail?
Yeah, well, they had him squirreled away on some island, and who knows what fate awaited him. Maybe a suicide like Allende, getting shot in the back by 2 machine guns from 100 feet away, that kind of thing.
Yep. Amazing.
But the people came down and took back the presidential palace and arrested the coosters, or many of them, the ones that didn't sneak out.
Right.
And the army said, uh-oh, and decided to follow the people.
That's true. But what's the name of the guy who took over from Hugo Chavez again?
Oh, the vice president.
Yeah, well, the smartest thing he did, and I have the greatest credibility, respect for him, is to kick these 2 imperialist spies out. Immediately. No questions asked.
Yep.
Ship them right back to USA.
And they exposed them.
And he exposed them. It's amazing how under His Imperialist Majesty Bharat I, they have like stepped up all of this stuff. Have you noticed it?
Yeah.
I mean, from the Zelaya situation in Honduras to all of South America.
Yep. Hey, look, they have been furiously building this project to control the entire planet for decades and decades, and it's, keeps falling just outside of their grasp.
Yeah.
And Chavez was one of a very important, very key player in the Global South to help the Global South find a way to organize its own economy and to serve the purposes of their own people, rather than serving the various IMF and World Bank and all that nonsense. And so he's been a target, and just like Gaddafi was trying to do the same thing in Africa. And
that is true.
Yeah, and despite the best efforts, they killed Gaddafi and may well have killed Hugo Chavez. But a couple of weeks ago in Equatorial Guinea, there was a meeting of ALBA countries, African countries, and others that are attempting to do exactly that, to set up more or less a people's common market. And start working on the economic needs of the people in Africa, South America, Asia, and to do it without the interference or the exploitation of the United States, the EU, and global capital.
Well, that sounds like an extension of Bolivarian revolution.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you something. You got to emphasize that at the death of Chavez, that the inflation rate is approximately 18%, okay? This is a cat who took it over when it was like above 25% or more by these capitalist pigs.
That's right.
I heard this woman from some university on NPR late last night as I was preparing my show, and she was running up her mouth talking about how Hugo Chavez ran up inflation in Venezuela because he has this reorganizing of the economy based upon poor people. And she says he ran up inflation and he left that country in a highly inflationary position. This is such a lie,
right.
A vicious lie.
Absolutely.
When the guy was in jail, when they locked him up, how high was the inflation then? He brought it down. And they're talking about how he squandered all this money because countries like Jamaica not paying for the gas.
Right.
And Haiti is not going to pay for the gas.
It's,
amazing. And the poor people in Boston are not paying for the gas, which is not true.
Right. Right.
They're paying according to their ability.
Well, they're paying actually according to, in a lot of cases, outside of Venezuela and other parts of the organized resistance in the global South, so-called. They're paying with whatever can be extracted by the oil companies and global capital.
Right.
And so what you do is you have to compare. The situation that the alternatives basically, and say which one is better. Which one would you prefer to have as the condition that you have to live your life in?
Right. Now, is Berlusconi going back to jail?
I don't know.
Or is he going to jail?
Looks pretty interesting.
They just had an election in Italy My daughter just got back from Italy.
And?
And I heard it was like 3 factions, and all 3 of them came out equally.
Uh-huh.
What about Kenya?
Yeah.
Is Jomo Kenyatta's, Uhuru Kenyatta's son,
Right.
seems to be winning this thing?
Right, yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
Wow.
But,
not too much of a democratic choice right there, right?
well, Kenya's a tough nut.
Yeah.
Jomo Kenyatta, well, one thing that indicates the problems that he encountered or left as a legacy, or both, is the fact that he lived, as opposed to, say, Patrice Lumumba, who was murdered, who had a different idea of how to relate to the West than Jomo Kenyatta did, ultimately.
Yeah.
Both were interested in, ending the colonial condition that they found their countries in, but Jomo Kenyatta was a lot more accommodationist to the West.
Yeah.
And, that there's baggage that goes with that, regardless of your intentions, and I think still Kenya suffers from that baggage, and that's part of the legacy also of Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah.
And a good part of his career to date. So it's going to depend on what happens going forward. But again, you have to look at alternatives. What else is going on in that country, and that's the game they play here. I mean, you have to vote for Obama or else you get Romney.
No. Better than that. You have to vote for Obama, otherwise you get Obama.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Right.
So, but that's the problem with the election in Kenya, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah. Now, you sent me an email on racism up in Newburgh. What is that about?
Well,
the latest.
Yeah, there's I'm going to have to come back to that because I don't have that in front of me. It was a long piece about what's going on up there, but the most...
Well, we can do that on Saturday on WSB.
Let's do that, yeah, let's do that. And maybe we can even get Lily on with us too, Lily Howard, because she sent that to me, and there's a lot to cover in it. I don't think we have the time to do it, and I'd have to start by...
And finally, before you close off, what's the latest on WBI? This transmitter thing seems to be a major crisis.
Yeah, they say it's a major crisis. They admit it's a major crisis. They are, small amount of time away from being kicked off the Empire State Building and consequently off the air, and perhaps that would mean their license would lapse. A very good chance that that's the case, actually. They say they need to raise $200,000 by the end of the month, and, that's...
Well, let me ask you something. Can't they, like when you go to jail, you get a bondsman and the bondsman put up the money. Can't they get some bonds person to put up the money?
Well, they're going to the listeners.
Or maybe I'm thinking like Goldman Sachs.
They're going to the listeners, and if I'm not mistaken, the fund drive ends tomorrow. The special fund drive, right? So,
the dog agrees with you.
Yeah, I know he's starting to get a little antsy here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a problem. Hey, talk about the new studio. You did your show from there today.
Yeah, I did my show from the DeBar studios,
the basement,
over at the bunkers of WHCR up in Harlem, and it's fascinating. It's really interestingly laid out place. The equipment is clean and nice. The speakers are good and all of that. But the frustrating thing is that they have no telephone.
No phones. There's been no planning.
No telephone. And the Skype thing, I don't know if you tried to Skype me this morning, but
no.
Lloyd tried to Skype me, and David Katz tried to Skype me, but the Skype wasn't coming up at, yes, you said it, WBI. So
somebody...
we got to figure that out.
Well, I'm waiting for them to try to blame this on Bernard White. I mean, he's been gone now for 4 years almost, and, when they run out of toilet paper, they blame it on Bernard. So, yeah. So I guess we're going to dip out here, and I've got one more little clip I want to play for the audience before we go. So any last words?
Well, as they say, the harder they come, the harder they come, the harder they fall. let's not waste this great Chavez opportunity and take it definitely to the next level so that we don't go back to this imperialism stuff.
Absolutely true. All right. Listener,
All right.
we'll be talking on USB on Saturday and on WBAI next Thursday morning at 4:30 and back here
Definitely.
again a week from today.
All right. Thanks a lot. CPR Metro.
Thank you, brother. Take care. Peace out.
Okay, bye.
And that was Lister Hugh Lowe, host of Burn Baby Burn on WBAI FM in New York City between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. It's one of the best programs they have in their little strip, and they've got them on before the chickens wake up. But that's what they do with a lot of the progressive and particularly progressive voices of color on Pacifica, and they've been doing it more and more in the last year or two or three. So let's see. I had something else I wanted to play, and let's try to get to that. Where are we? We gotta hit this bad boy right here. And hang on, we're gonna be right back. Boom, boo, ba doo, ba doo, boop, boop, boop. And let's have a little more music. Okay, we're gonna do this. And I wanna, by the way, remind people again, over the course of today, we're going to be breaking in. It may not be till later today. It'll be maybe in the early evening in New York time with reports from the ground in Caracas. And tomorrow, special programming from Caracas, the funeral of the late Venezuelan president, Hugo Chavez. And there's we have two people on the ground. One is there already. I got confirmation that our lead journalist has hit the ground in Caracas, and we'll be meeting our other emissary at the airport later today when the flight information gets worked out, because they've been having some delays with the wind and mechanical issues and other stuff. But that's just the way that goes, you know. Let's see. And I wanted to hit this. Here we go. And okay. All right, so we're going to jump into a discussion about the successor to Chavez from Press TV.
Venezuela's leader Hugo Chavez has died after a long battle with cancer. Tearful Vice President Nicolas Maduro announced Chavez's death directly from a Caracas military hospital. Maduro had earlier told the nation that Chavez was given cancer by enemies.
We don't have any doubts, and the moment will arrive in history when we can form a scientific team to study that President Chavez was attacked with this disease. He publicly manifested his view regarding this matter, and we do not have a single doubt that the historic enemies found a way to hurt the health of our commander. We already have many avenues regarding this matter. It is a very serious matter that will have to be investigated by a specialized scientific team.
Maduro also said that the imperialistic powers were seeking to destabilize Venezuela both militarily and economically. The vice president said Caracas had expelled an American diplomat for trying to stir up a military coup against Chavez.
A representative from the U.S. Embassy has carried out actions against the stability of our military and political systems over the last few weeks. This representative has taken it upon himself to find soldiers in Venezuela, active soldiers, firstly to investigate the current situation of our armed forces, and secondly to propose destabilizing projects. This representative is the Air Force attaché David Del Monaco, and he has been expelled. He has 24 hours to gather his belongings and leave Venezuela. Venezuela has to be respected.
The Venezuelan Foreign Ministry also announced the expulsion of a second U.S. official. The Pentagon has confirmed that a U.S. military attaché expelled from Venezuela is en route back to the U.S. But U.S. officials have rejected as absurd Venezuela's allegation that the U.S. has been behind Chavez's death. Well, also in Press TV Studio we have Hamid Golpira, a political commentator and journalist. Welcome to the programme, sir. Mr. Golpira, first of all, what would be the impact of Chavez's death on the Latin American region? We know that not everyone in the region, especially the US, is happy. We're sad with Chavez's death.
Well, indeed, that is the case, and some elements, especially the right-wing elements in Venezuela, who then the rich people among the right-wing elements who want to gain the ascendancy again, will believe it's some kind of an opening for them. Some of the U.S. forces and their allies among the right-wing forces will also see it as something positive, whereas the general left movement across the Americas will see it as a loss, especially in places like Bolivia, Venezuela, Cuba, Ecuador. They will see it as a loss, but hopefully they will not let such things, and especially in Venezuela, slow them down. I would say to honor somebody who served the poor, it is necessary to keep defending the poor and make sure the gains made in defending the poor and getting them their rights, at least some of their rights, after many, many years of hard times in Venezuela and South America for the poor. The best way to honor someone like Chavez, who believed in the poor, is to continue the struggle to uplift the masses of South America and Venezuela and all of South America, which was the movement he was part of, and all of Latin America, really.
Indeed, and so how do you think this legacy of Chavez will continue? I mean, he was famous for decreasing the gap between the rich and poor in Venezuela.
Well, he began to do so. The gap was so very great that, it was so very, very great. And as it is in much of Latin America, it's almost a caste system where with the very poor very low on the economic rungs, the very rich very high up, and many of the middle class relatively, not all, but many aligning with the successful rich people. So the gap was so great that he had narrowed the gap quite a bit, at least a reasonable amount, through his efforts over the years. But it was so great, everything couldn't be leveled right at once, or even in his over 1 decade in power. But he set things in motion. Some other people are trying to set things in motion in other parts of Latin America, such as Bolivia, such as Ecuador, and hopefully the movement and the new leadership in Venezuela will continue on with this struggle and not let things slow them down. They must even not lose a step. Okay, I can say we should mourn somebody, but we should honor somebody who worked for the poor by defending the poor. So hopefully the new leadership in Venezuela, which I'm relatively confident that they will continue the path, and that they will continue the path to work to uplift the poor. And hopefully there will be even more integration among Latin America, especially the progressive elements in Latin America, to work to uplift the masses of Latin America, who are really, for many, many, many years, for centuries really, have been downtrodden, have not had their rights, have had minimal income, not good access to education and health care, and the situation must change. And just over the past few years, there has been this whole progressive movement starting across Latin America. Hopefully this will continue, and people can honor the legacy of Chavez by continuing this movement.
And of course, Brazil's president has put Chavez's death as an irreparable loss to the region. Many thanks to Hamid Golpira, journalist and a commentator.
So there you have it. This is CPRmetro.org, community progressive radio for the metropolitan New York area and the world, from the metropolitan New York area to the world and beyond, wherever you may be. You've been inside the CPR Morning Show with Don DeBar. I am, have been, and ever shall be Don DeBar, for better or worse, and I will be Don DeBar again tomorrow when we come back with another edition of the CPR Morning Show. Thanks to Steve Dillard and Daryl Morris, collectively known as Irresponsible, for the exit theme music you hear under my voice, No Justice. Up next is the Metro Community Calendar with Carlisle Leach, followed by Emanations with Bernard White, so keep it right here. And again, we'll be bringing you regular coverage beginning later today from the capital of Venezuela, Caracas. while people are massing to honor the memory of the late President Hugo Chavez tomorrow at his funeral. And we'll be covering that in depth, live from the ground, exclusive to CPR Metro.
We are dying every day, and we're in a hell of a condition because we've made a covenant with a government that is death itself, with a people that have lied to us, deceived us, and murdered us, and rubs us good on one side and kicks us in the behind on the other. You are a deceived people. This nation is not about poor people, whether they're black, brown, red, yellow, or white. This nation is about rich people, privileged people, powerful people, and to hell with the weak, the poor. They must serve. If you don't have the testicular fortitude to say what needs to be said, then sit down and stop trying to say you speak for our people and the hurt of the poor.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable.
You know it's true. CPRmetro.org. Up next, Metro Community Calendar with Carlisle Leach.